Listen, like people, we've primed people for this. Predator, Aliens, Super Mario Brothers, come and see.
Yeah. This was
That's...
actually, Super Mario Brothers was the American response to the Soviet Union's come and see.
They take place in a shared universe. That's actually the thing that's the thing I'm most mad about the Chris Pratt version is that they have kind of like what Disney did with the Star Wars extended universe. They have eliminated come and see from the extended Super Mario's universe because it's not animated.
Yeah.
You're tall, but I'm standing in front of you.
It's a podcast.
Welcome to You're Tall, but I'm Standing in Front of You, the podcast where two friends circling the drain of academia examine the cultural detritus of the 20th century. I'm Devin.
I'm Ethan.
How's it going, buddy?
It is great. Spring has sprung. See, this is the problem. We're recording it. I don't know what's going to be happening in like the early May.
Yeah. We usually don't plan anything in advance. So we don't usually have this problem.
Yeah.
I'm sure nothing bad will have happened between.
Man, did you hear about
in the next 25
obviously,
days?
Of course, we're all dealing. We're all dealing with what has happened within the last week or two. But it's important to carry on, and that's why we're excited to kick off this new season.
Yeah, so it's season 3 of our completely arbitrarily divided up seasons, but we've got a pretty interesting.
It's like when there's like a show on TV that's like obviously going to get canceled, and you're looking at how many episodes were in each season. It's like season 1, 21 episodes, season 2, 10 episodes, season 3, 7 episodes?
Question mark. Yeah. What I like about us is we have it's actually the opposite of Twin Peaks, which had like a short first season and then got renewed because it was really popular, and had a full like 22 episode second season. We just went straight into like a nice like 21, 22 episode first season. And then we're like, well, nobody wants that much of this. What about 10?
Yeah.
Like randomly spaced out with no consistency.
Yeah, us talking about 1993 Super Mario Brothers is like the David Lynch of podcasts, and then all of the subsequent conversations, it kind of goes off the rails a bit.
Absolutely. But we have a pretty exciting month planned. Ethan, do you want to tell the listeners what we have planned for basically this early May to early June first little mini series of season 3?
Sure. I probably, we're probably all, out there getting ready to celebrate the big holiday, of course, coming up here. VE Day, Victory in Europe Day. So I don't know, Devin, do you have any family traditions with VE Day? How do you celebrate?
Yeah, we just we roast up some like bratwurst, and then we throw them at a chocolate Eiffel Tower that we get from Edible Arrangements.
Oh, nice.
Until and then whoever knocks it over, they get to keep the shillelagh.
Right.
Yeah. What about you?
Oh, it's sort of similar. We take the bratwurst, but we pretend to roast it up. But then what we do is we actually keep it in pristine condition, and we use it to engage in a terror campaign that the last several decades. We use the bratwurst for, of course, our own means of anti-communist activity. So that's how we celebrate. Yeah. We're excited to kick off the month. I guess
I'm Italian, so
Oh, you should know all about this. So, or maybe you're not supposed to know about it. Is how this is supposed to go? I guess season 1 we had a whole month of 9/11. So I guess we're gonna do a multi-part series involving some different perspectives on World War II. So we're gonna kick things off this month with 1985's Come and See. So this is, we'll get into it in a moment, but this is like a film that was made in the Soviet Union. We'll be having some films coming up later this month, going into next month, that were, created through some different nationalities. And I think it'll be an interesting conversation about some of the similarities and differences. About some of the approaches of these films and how they talk about some of these themes. So it's World War II month, everyone.
Yeah, and it is kind of, we're kind of in our History Channel dads bag this month.
Mm-hmm.
But I do think this is an important topic for us to tackle, right? Because we're all about trying to think about the 20th century, not exclusively 20th century films, right? But the 20th century as a period, as a historical object, right? And World War II as a cultural narrative, right, just has so much power in terms of how everything else that happens in the 20th century gets understood, right? World War II becomes the war that then Vietnam is the, is darkly compared to, or whatever, but it's we're constantly chasing the high of World War II and this idea that this was the good war and we stopped fascism and
but not the Great War. Don't get it mixed up. But
absolutely, yes. Right. And don't talk about important for our discussion today, don't talk too much about the Soviet Union's contributions to the defeat of fascism, right?
I learned a lot by watching this, that there was did you know there was not only a Western Front, but there was...
Yeah, that's where everything's nice and quiet. I heard about that.
Yeah. But there was, in fact, an Eastern Front. So...
no kidding.
Yeah.
And so without further ado, I think, as we get into this film, which, if you haven't watched it, highly recommend, be warned, this is a brutal film. This is not in the generic area that we traditionally have trounced upon in this podcast, right? So don't cue it up thinking you're going to get John Wick 3 or something. But we wanted to, as we get a little out of our normal depth with this one, we wanted to have some help, and we have a great guest this week, our good friend Matt Ellis. Matt, say hi to everybody.
Hey everybody, thanks for having me, guys.
So Matt, tell the listeners a little bit about yourself and sort of what interested you about talking about Come and See with us.
Yeah, sure. I guess the technical the boring technical paper thing is I'm a senior instructor of film and literature at Portland State. I just finished my PhD in film studies ish. I guess Devin, you and I are shit posters all the time, so we've kind of been talking about movies like this, and I think you were just I can't remember if you watched it for the first time, but we were chatting over DM and just we got to talk about it. It's a classic.
Absolutely. Yeah. No, Matt is a first ballot Hall of Famer in terms of shit posters. There is literally, Matt, tell us a story about the plaque real quick.
Oh God. Well, I've gotten in trouble many times over Twitter, some of it legal. But this case was, I forget exactly the details, but I think it was after some mass shooting. And of course, at this point we forget, right? But it was one that the shooter was a big Ben Shapiro fan. And Ben Shapiro was, of course, doing it's not, you don't look at the guy, don't look about this at all. And I was just on Twitter and I just responded to Ben Shapiro. I said, Ben, is it true you are 4 feet tall? Ha 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 ha.
Hey,
And
that's
I
just a
sort of get
question.
into it. Yeah, it is a good question, right? And I sort of get into it with some guys. Some guys, how dare you, sir? You're blah,
It's
blah,
four,
blah."
four, four.
Yeah. Fast forward like a week, I'm in Ireland for a conference, and I get an email from Joan Kopchek, the Lacanian psychoanalyst Joan Kopchek, who is our director of graduate studies at Brown at MCM Brown at the moment. And the body of the email just started, dear all, it has come to my attention that there are people on the internet who do not wish you well. And before reading any further, I was like, this is me. I know I did this. And so I wrote an email back. And I guess basically what happened is that that guy online that saw me post that and then sort of was fighting with me sent an email to the president of Brown University trying to get me fired. Also called me balding at the point, which sort of fair, I guess, but I don't know how I always wear a hat, so I don't know how he got that.
I guess he was just like assuming, right?
Yeah,
like
just
that,
assuming, I think.
Yeah.
Thankfully, I guess my sort of the chair of the department at the time, in a media studies department, understands Twitter and weirdos. Thank God, a person I can't say enough good things about. So she saved me there, talked to Christina Paxson, the president of Brown, down. But it was an event, and so my fellow grad students commemorated it with a plaque that's up in the department right now. It just reads, it has come to my attention that there are people on the internet who do not wish you well.
Nice. Well,
Kind of a mantra.
Matt, I can reassure you that there's not going to be any kind of fallout from this episode like that because no one is listening. Don't worry. It's like,
Ben, if you're out there,
other than, respect to our listeners in Chicago, but, our most popular city. I do think we should do like a tour at some point, but only just go do a live pod in Chicago for like the 20 people who listen to us there. We can't do one locally.
No,
we don't have the local support.
No.
But anyway, let's get into this movie. So Come and See, directed by sorry in advance for all pronunciations by me of Russian or Belarusian names, but Elem Klimov. And so we start, it's a very I think it's fair to say like kind of in media res start, right? Like we're not really given any like sort of, unless I'm forgetting, there's not really like establishing narratively that we're in the war. We're just like, it's the war. The war's happening. It's 1943, and we see these two boys, these Belarusian boys, digging in this trench. And what they're doing is pulling out these rifles that have been buried. It's not really clear to me why the rifles are there. I don't know if you guys have a better sense of that. They just, I guess, have been hidden there or something. They have some reason to know they're there.
I just sort of figured this was kind of the back and forth of the battlefield, and at some point they had been abandoned, or someone had been slaughtered, and there was some weapons there because there was various other like equipment that was just scattered about. So that was my assumption.
Yeah, and there's this older man warning the boys not to do it, right? Saying that it's going to like provoke the Germans.
Not easily provocable people.
No kidding.
Yeah.
And one of these boys is Fiora, who is our protagonist. If you've seen, the iconic poster for this film or any of the posters for this film, it's almost always like a shot of his face, which is something we see I would like to actually even know what the percentage is, but such a huge percentage of the shots in this film are these kind of like these straight on close-ups of people's faces, and more often than not Fiora's face, and you just sort of see him like kind of basically going insane from war and trauma. So he ends up pulling out a rifle. This is noticed by like a spy plane or like a reconnaissance plane that's going over, which is going to be picked up on later. And then Fiora ends up getting conscripted by the partisans, the resistance movement. My understanding is basically because he has a gun. Like, it's like you need to have a gun to join the resistance movement, which is why he wants this gun, right? It's like they want to, like, it's this kind of it starts off very romantic. Like he's got this kind of like weird optimism about him. He's kind of smiling a lot earlier in the film, right? And he wants to join up with the resistance and you know, kill the fascists. There's like this actually great line at one, it's a little later, but like you hear like one of the like resistance leaders kind of giving a speech over, I forget exactly what's on screen, but it you're not like seeing him talk. His voice is kind of playing over some other kind of footage. And he like tells the men, or he asks the men, like what is it? A partisan doesn't ask how many fascists are there. He asks, where are the fascists?
Right.
You know, there are those, especially early in this film, we're getting kind of that like, oh yeah, fuck the fascists kind of, you know, there's but it's infinitesimal, you know, but this like infinitesimal optimism maybe.
It's interesting. It's kind of like a quick version of the beginning of All Quiet on the Western Front, but instead of getting disillusioned with the front as our soldier goes with be heroic and joins his schoolmates out in the yard, he's 14, so everything's overwhelming.
Yep.
Yeah. We should emphasize that, right? He's very young. He looks young too. This isn't like a Hollywood film where like a 25-year-old is playing like a 14-year-old. You know, he looks like a child.
Klimov supposedly was like very much like, we have to be careful when we're filming because we might drive him mad. Which, I don't know about that, but he was very aware that like it's pretty fucked up. What's this kid? Is this kid gonna be okay?
Yeah.
Yeah. No, absolutely. So let's see. So he ends up, kind of he's up with the militia, but he's not being like brought along to fight. He's given kind of like menial tasks. You see him like he's cleaning this giant pot or something, like at one point where he's like literally like inside the pot, like scrubbing it. And they kind of leave him behind at the camp. And he kind of like, he's very like disappointed. He starts crying and he like walks off into the forest. He meets up with this young girl.
Well, they took his boots as well, right? That was like, I assume that was part of what pissed him off beyond just missing out on the glory. Is they're like, this guy, he says he can't join us because he has old boots. Actually, just kid, give him your new nice boots. Get these like rotted out leather boots that you're going to be stuck here with.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's kind of this like, there's this weird almost little like, it seems like there's going to be almost like a romance or something between the two young characters, right? But again, like any moment of any kind of positive emotion in this film, it's always like infinitesimally fleeting, and the camp starts getting bombed. And like just I just want to highlight like the sound work that's being done throughout the film, but especially here, right? Like I don't know how you guys would describe it, but like incredibly immersive, like not necessarily like realistic or not. I don't know whether to say that or not, but there's this weird haunting ambience throughout the film of just like these like strange sounds, and then like people's screams will be very loud sometimes, very quiet others. Like it's a very like creepy and unsettling and atmospheric soundscape.
It's interesting because, one of the really corny ways you do it in war movies now, especially like, I don't know what's the first war movie to do this in, but now it's like a feature in every first person shooter war game is that like the bomb goes off and like the soundtrack goes, and then it comes back. But it is suggested that the boy like loses hearing in one of his ears in this bomb raid. But instead of doing that, it turns into this like weird, surreal, ambient like zone where you can't quite like things come in and out and music comes in. Why is that there? And I find that whole sequence right there on the soundtrack really, really interesting.
Yeah, and you get a lot of these like high pitched sounds too. It actually reminds me of like the opening sequence of Children of Men. With that, they use that like ringing sound as like a sound bridge after there's like the bombing in the beginning of that scene, and then later Julianne Moore's like has this line about how that's like your what do you call them,
It's like the nerve endings in your
the
ear,
nerve
or
endings dying in your
something.
ear. Yeah.
Hmm.
Kind of reminds me of that. I wonder if this was like an influence on that. But yeah, you get it's much more, I feel like the trope you're kind of talking about, Matt, right? At this point it feels so canned. Whereas in this, it's not, again, not necessarily a realistic depiction of like what Fliora is hearing, but it like creates the sensation of like horror that, like you can't ground it in the way that like, some of these more like kind of Western, action war movie tropes, let us kind of feel like we're in a genre movie.
No, that's exactly right. And like the annoying, pretentious way to say it would be that is the sort of Hollywood mode of identification, right? Is that, oh, you will now hear just as the boy hears. You are like, the only way you could possibly ever relate to this is if you identify with, here's the POV, here's what he is hearing. And yeah, this is, it's obviously not explicitly, connected to like 20s Soviet film theory or something like this, but it's very clearly a different mode of identification in this film. And I think this is more interesting, Yeah.
Definitely, yeah. For all the time we spend with Fliora, and like all those like close-ups of his face we get, that should be kind of like identifying shots, like we really get more disidentified from him. We watch him kind of become inhuman almost, and not inhuman in like a way where like I feel like a lot of Western war movies or like American war movies are about like, oh, this guy's become like a crazy killer, fucking like hero type that we can't relate to. Like, I don't know, I'm thinking like The Hurt Locker or something, right? Like, oh, this is like a different kind of guy. It's like not that kind of dehumanization. It's like instead just like this guy's being turned into like bare life before our eyes. It's like his skin is becoming gray, his eyes are becoming dead, like he's like a zombie. It almost feels like you're watching like a horror movie sometimes, more so than a war movie. Yeah, so what else happens in this? I mean, long story short, basically a lot of just bad shit keeps happening. So I don't know how much. I'll try to like not go through it with too fine tooth a comb. So let's see. He's been deafened, as Matt said, at least partially, from the explosions. He and Glash are hiding in the forest. They're trying to get back to his village. His home is deserted. He's kind of in denial that his family is dead. But the girl, thinks they are. He believes they're like hiding somewhere. So he starts like wading through this bog and like, gets like sucking down into the mud.
Great scene. That's the great best scene.
And like Glasha is like, yelling about how he's crazy, basically, like he's lost his mind, your family's all dead. They end up, I forget exactly who intercepts them. I guess it's like a resistance guy finds them and picks them up.
Yeah.
And they end up then at this group of villagers who have fled, and the elder from the beginning, there's this long shot of them kind of walking through this crowd of villagers, and people are sort of like separating as they're walking, and somebody actually like shouts at him, and it's a little unclear if he even hears them diegetically, but someone's shouting at him about how his family's dead. And then they kind of get to this almost like clearing in the middle of the crowd where the village elder from the beginning, the guy who was telling them not to dig up the guns, is there, and he's like completely charred black, like he's been like partially burned. Well, he has been burned alive, but not to the point of death yet. Like he's clearly dying, right? And this is another one of these moments in this film where it's like this strange like surreality, almost the way that there's like this like complete absence of people around this guy, and he's got this almost kind of otherworldly quality. And then there's like a long sequence of him talking and sort of like telling him about witnessing Fiora's family's execution and being like, I told you shouldn't have dug up the rifles. And Flora like kind of loses it at this, tries to kill himself, or makes moves towards killing himself. But kind of, the villagers and Glasha kind of like, comfort him and stop him. I think then the next main thing, there's so many sequences. Like it's a little episodic in this way. So what? There's the thing with the cow.
Yeah, well, I mean, they
Right? Is that
make
the
an
next thing?
effigy. They make an effigy of Hitler.
Oh yes. Oh yeah. No, I definitely want to talk about this. Yeah, did you maybe want to take us through that, Ethan? Or...
Yeah, I mean, sort of right after that, after he like attempts suicide by just like sticking his head in the bog and is brought out by the villagers and everyone. Yes, there's like a skull that they've plastered on top of a German raincoat, and then they like fix it up with clay from the bog to sort of look like this kind of like ghastly image of Hitler.
Yeah, it's like a Hitler scarecrow, basically.
Yeah.
I like that.
Giving the Sieg Heil, and they take this scarecrow on a mission to. They've heard that there's like a warehouse full of food and supplies that they could potentially grab. Turns out that's not the case. It is in fact guarded by Germans, and so they have to make a hasty retreat. They're getting shot at. I think there's like 4 of them. They originally just wanted to go without Fliora, but he's like, it's my gun. I'm not going to give you my gun. So he goes with them, because he certainly doesn't need any time to recuperate from everything he's been experiencing. And then
that's a big thing, right? In this movie is like it doesn't have those kind of beats,
right? Because like
it doesn't have off. There's not off beats. It's like it's going. In a weird way, I'd almost compare it to like a Mad Max Fury Road. Obviously, completely different tonally, but like structurally, it's kind of like that. It's like one big sequence, basically, of like he's just moving, right, the entire time. There is no like, now we're gonna like have a hard cut, and here's like a scene of us just talking, and like he never gets a scene to like talk about his guilt or something to another character or anything like those kind of. Those emotional beats we would expect from a Hollywood film are not there. They're denied to us.
I do want to get into that, like maybe later when we get into more meta conversation about how this film like deploys space, and I think in a specifically interesting way, sort of what you're talking about, Devin. But like narrative space being something that's in Hollywood narratively driven, and here there's no narrative like component to organizing it. But anyway, we'll get there.
Ah, great. Yeah.
But long story short, I mean, 2 of the guys he's with get blown up by a mine that they accidentally stumble onto a minefield. Then they steal a cow. Him and the partisan steal a cow, but then they're shot down by machine gun fire, so the cow is killed. The partisan with him is killed, so it's just Fliora again, who then wanders off and finds like a horse with a cart, and he's gonna steal it, but then the farmer is like, oh, hold up, and it's like, oh, come with me, we'll go, there's like SS troops coming, you're gonna pretend to be a member of this village, and we'll see how that works out. And that kind of builds us towards, I guess, the big climactic scene which takes place in this village. And I don't know like how much we want to get into this, because like it really draws out various moments of what is essentially like the massacre of everybody that lives in this village by this SS battalion.
I mean, we could get into a lot of detail. I think like essentially what happens is the entire village is basically herded into this church and like burned alive, or like there's Molotov cocktails thrown, they're slaughtered, right? I think one of the details I would want to point out is there's this one like kind of younger Nazi soldier who he like at one point like says like he like offers the people escape if they will like abandon their children inside of the church. He's like, come out and leave the children, which is going to be remembered by some of these characters later, or is going to be remembered by Fiora, I think, specifically. just really like excruciating to watch. It's Fliora is able to escape. How exactly does that happen? He's just kind of allowed to escape? Is it clear? Does that happen for like a reason, or is it just kind of random?
Well, it's like I'm guessing the guy was like, "Oh, leave the children come out," and he just climbs out the window.
Yeah, I think it's like they get caught up in the orgy of destruction and sort of just leave him. They like remember that they pose for the photo with him and like ha 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 ha, and then they just sort of leave him to die.
Yeah. So they pose for a soldier like points a gun at his head, and like takes a photo and then just kind of like laughs and leaves him. Another woman who or a girl who escapes from the church is dragged into a truck and raped, and I guess that's basically what happens there. We're back to kind of like Fliora wandering again. He's kind of vaguely wandering like towards in the direction of like the German destruction, I guess, but then it turns out that the Germans have been ambushed by the partisans. And so to the extent we ever get like a narrative shift in the film, I guess it's here, right? Where now some of these Germans who have just committed this atrocity are captured, right? Including this younger Nazi officer who had made the comment about leaving the children. And then they're not all Germans, right? There's like collaborators.
Yeah, they're Ukrainians.
Okay. Yeah. Contemporary issues
to the IMDb
highlighted here. Yeah. Oh yeah, we are going to talk about that. So yeah, so the Ukrainian collaborators are being like, well, hey, we're just following orders, kind of. There's a lot of like Nuremberg defense shit going on. And I think is it Fliora the one who is like announces that that this is the officer who said the thing about the children?
Yeah, I think he says
is it him that says that?
Mm-hmm.
Right. And so basically they start to like, they're gonna like burn these guys to death, right? And then like instead like the crowd kind of like shoots them as like the like gasoline is being poured on them.
Right. And you do have the one SS officer who is very unapologetic about the whole thing, which is like sort of the like feels almost like a call to action of the film, where he's like, listen, not every race has the right to live. Inferior races spread the contagion of communism, and we will exterminate you either today or tomorrow. That's like he is very unapologetic. The one German SS officer.
Yeah, the collaborators are like hysterical in this scene, and they're kind of like begging for their lives. But like the guy with the swastikas on his neck, on his collar, is like, yeah, very coldly like, yeah, and like he reminded me of like characters I've seen before. There's like a character like him in Rome Open City. I feel like he kind of reminds me a little bit even of the Nazi in Inglourious Basterds that ends up getting like beaten to death by the Bear Jew. Right. He's like that style of like unrepentant, like machine, like Nazi, like confirming for the viewer, like, no, these people have to be killed. Like, there's no liberal solution here. And then, everyone kind of leaves after that. But then the big thing that happens, which is just astounding the way this film ends, is it ends with Fiora finds this like framed portrait of Hitler on the ground and starts just shooting it with his gun. And then like that leads to this like non-diegetic, I guess, like montage of like clips of like it's like war footage and also stuff of like Hitler's life that's like going in reverse until it like ends with this photograph of like Hitler as a baby with his mom, which is actually like not a real photograph. It's a composite of two existing photographs, one of his mother and one of him as a baby, that was created by like kind of putting those on top of each other, and he like sees that, stops shooting and cries.
Yeah.
And then we get this like final title card saying that 628 Belarusian villages were destroyed along with all their inhabitants.
And I got to tell you, Devin, that last picture really took me out of it because, as you know, I have a whole room devoted to pictures of Hitler. And I knew that these were two different photos. So it really took you out of the scene, whether they composited those two. But other than that, very compelling end.
Yeah, geez, I forgot that we had... we're recording this on Easter Monday, folks. I forgot that we had like Nazi memorabilia discourse yesterday. And then, multiple mass shootings today. History just happens very quickly. But yeah, don't have rooms of Nazi memorabilia is my position.
Well, where can I can't put it in the Garden of Terror or whatever.
Yeah, you tell me now?
The Garden of Evil. Yeah.
Jeez.
But yeah, that is Come and See. Honestly, like a tough film to watch, as anyone will tell you, but incredible also. Just like an incredible piece of filmmaking. But not everyone agrees, as we will talk about in just a moment. Well, so speaking of the end of the movie, something interesting that happened with this film recently, which is not usually a film that enters into, I feel like, mainstream American discourse very much. Not to try to claim that the internet is ever mainstream, but I guess like relatively normie discourse. After the Russian invasion of Ukraine, like, some people got together and tried to review, and I guess they succeeded. I don't know, but like just bombed Come and See on IMDB.com with negative reviews in the attempt to push it out of the IMDB top 100. Which, if you're a filmmaker, that's like where you want to be. The list that thinks Shawshank Redemption is the greatest film of all time. Honestly, something we should talk about on the pod sometimes, because one of the weirder things that people think. But anyway, in this like that'll show Putin gesture, and I don't know if you guys had any thoughts about this. It's not like I have a ton to say about it, but so weird to think that like the response to like the Russian invasion of Ukraine would be, oh, like less people should see a movie like Come and See. With its clear like pro-war message or whatever, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
so what would you have us do then, Devin? How would you say that we should stop the war in Ukraine?
I just wish I had started a fucking flag company a couple weeks in the lead up, because there was plenty of lead up time.
Actually though, follow up. What movie do you think could be review bombed in such a way that it would end the war in Ukraine?
Ooh. Let's pull up the IMDb top 100 here. All right, let's see. Shawshank's still number one.
Yeah, that's never
Schindler's
going to change.
List isn't going to help. I think, honestly, if we can dislodge 12 Angry Men from its spot as the 6th greatest movie of all time, according to IMDb, that's something will happen.
We do live in a post-truth era, so,
So there you have it.
Yeah.
Putin, huge Henry Fonda fan as well. So, yeah.
I mean, my read on this situation is just it's, before the restoration, which was just a couple years ago, which hopefully we'll talk about, is like on internet normie cinephile culture, this was this film that like kind of existed on the margins that everybody talked about. And it was like big in YouTube video essays, like those fucking awful, like the golden ratio and oh man, the like that kind of level stuff. And you could see it because Mosfilm a couple years back just uploaded like full 4K restos of like almost their entire archive on YouTube, which is incredible. And not all of them have subtitles, but I mean, you can see some amazing stuff there.
Yeah, I've watched the Stalker they have up. Yeah.
But Come and See, I feel like, was this thing that existed as like one of the 4 quote unquote foreign films that like normie cinephile people who like just got into, I mean, this is old at this point, but like, Nolan, Tarantino, like in that realm, it was like, oh, I saw a video essay about this Russian film. And so that was then the target. Okay. What can I do?
This
I
is
can do
making
nothing.
more sense to me then.
Yeah, I can target that movie from YouTube.
Yeah. See, I'm thinking of this as just like this just film happens to randomly be in the top 100. I didn't realize it had that connection to like normie film bro culture.
Yeah.
So this is like
I don't
film
think any of them
bros
have
being
seen
like,
it, to be clear.
yeah. But this is the film bros being like, I have to like absolve myself of this film that I told people was great, even though I haven't watched. I wonder, do you think part of that is like just because the reputation of how brutal it is, people wanting to be like film bros being like, oh yeah, I love Come and See, you probably can't handle it. Like, yeah,
totally. Yeah.
And the weird thing is like you watch it, and I think those guys are probably watching it thinking it's like hard to watch in like a David Fincher way or something, like, and it really isn't.
Do you know where it falls on the list?
Where?
It falls between. I'm gonna tell you what 2 films Come and See falls between. Come and See
so what number is it?
It's number 68.
Almost nice.
Number 60. Almost. Number 67 is Aliens. And
okay.
number 6.
When I watched Come and See, my first thought was slightly worse than Aliens.
And slightly better than number 69, Disney Pixar's Coco.
Oh man, what a film screening! what a doubleheader at the drive-in.
Yeah,
Coco for the kids, and then they fall asleep in the car, and we put on Come and See.
Yeah.
I mean, it is funny, right? Because the whole last third is, they're Ukrainians, like they're Ukrainian collaborators. Like this is really a complicated view. Like you could do a whole seminar on this. I guarantee you that's not why they review bombed it. Like I guarantee you they didn't even know.
Oh, definitely not. Yeah.
No.
This is like there is a really interesting, conversation that I'm not entirely qualified to have about sort of like, the complex ethnic dynamics in this part of the world, the history of Nazism and anti-Semitism in this part of the world, the way that the experiences of the Eastern Front, inflect the people that are still in charge of Russia today, Putin specifically, right? So much of his family is killed, or otherwise, their lives are otherwise damaged, on the Eastern Front. But this was just kind of like, I feel like a bunch of dudes being like, we can't have any Russian films in the top 100.
Yeah.
And this is the one that we've decided is compatible with film bro culture. But yeah, no, interesting. American History X, by the way, 45.
Where's Crash on there? Okay.
All right, sorry. I just have to ask, what the fuck is The Intouchables?
Is it on
46.
the list?
Yeah, it's from 2011. It's called The Intouchables. It's a French buddy comedy with Omar Sy, who I believe is he's in the Lupin show. If you've seen that, like the Netflix like live action Lupin.
Well.
Whoa. Oh man, Nathan Lee would love this. Until Lucy in 2014, The Intouchables was the most seen French film in the world.
Wow.
Wow.
Who knew the things you learn on the
Yeah.
IMDb top 100? But anyway, speaking of IMDb, speaking of reviews, speaking of bombs, Ethan, I think you have a game for us, right?
Yes. Yeah. This brings us to a little segment that we like to call Vox Populi. So, I know we were talking about how like this a lot of reviews seem to come up after the fact for Come and See. Like I tried to look up what was Roger Ebert's review on Come and See, and that didn't even come out until like 2010. I started reading it, and he mentions Inglourious Bastards, and I'm like, hold up, and that's when I realized like, oh, this is actually way after the fact. But the New York Times, America's premier newspaper, did review this film in 1987, and that's going to bring us to our game today. Now, I will tell you, I'll give you a heads up that Walter Goodman, who reviewed this for the New York Times, had a mixed review on Come and See. And so what we're going to do for our game today is I'd love for both of you to speculate what were some aspects of Come and See that you imagine that the New York Times thought were not good, that were strikes against the quality of this film. And we'll see who is able to come up with the closest ideas of what this review said, the issues this review had with Come and See.
All right. How many do you want us each to come up with, Ethan?
Let's go with, does 3 sound like a good
Cool.
number?
Yeah. Can we do them let's do them back and forth maybe instead of 3 and 3, right? Like we'll do it like kind of like a draft. All right.
Okay.
Matt, do you want to go first, or do you want me to?
I'll go first.
Cool.
I bet the length was one. This is not really an era of, Heaven's Gate sort of killed the new Hollywood and it's 3 hours. This is kind of the era of like, all right, no more of this bullshit. Let's cut to the chase. I bet the length was one.
Okay. Devin?
All right. I'm gonna say like some kind of issue with like overusing the close-up shot, those straight-on close-up shots. Like we get it already. That kind of that kind of vibe. Like there's no cool fight scenes or anything. Like why always these straight ahead shots?
Okay. Matt, what would be your second guess about issues New York Times might have with this film?
Maybe I could see something about being disappointed that they don't reveal more of the interiority of our protagonist or something, right? Like it's difficult to, sort of get a view of what's really going on or something like this. I don't know.
Okay.
I'm going to say that he thinks the film, and I don't necessarily mean this how it will initially sound, he thinks the film is one-sided. And I'm not necessarily thinking that he thinks like the Nazi side has not been properly represented, but maybe like in terms of between sort of like the partisans and the collaborators, right? Like the intra kind of like Belarusians differences or whatever. Like that, it's a one-sided, simplistic, not nuanced depiction of the conflict.
Yeah, fair. All right, and we have one more each for both of you. Predictions about issues that the New York Times has with this film.
I'm going to say I could actually see something like being compared to Tarkovsky negatively. Like Tarkovsky does this same thing, but like, probes the depths of the spirit of, blah, 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 blah. And like, I could see that this just aestheticizes death or something like this. But like that's a negative comparison to Tarkovsky. That's my number 3.
Yeah, like Tarkovsky gives you these like long, hard to endure shots, right? But they're compatible with Western humanism.
Yeah.
You know, in a way, it's certainly like they're very religious, and spiritual. All right, so I got my last pick here. Hitler baby too cute. You can't represent it on film. It's not okay.
Okay, I've got all of your answers down. I think one of the issues I'm going to have to contend with in tallying up the points is that for some reason you both did not assume how dumb the New York Times is. But I think I can probably figure this out.
Man, and this is late 80s New York Times.
Yeah, I always thought,
like
Sontag's writing there. Like, I mean,
they don't hate this film, but there are some interesting some things that they didn't like that I didn't agree with and I thought were interesting. So this is the review of Come and See by Walter Goodman, February 6th, 1987. The terrible central event of Come and See, which takes up about a quarter of the 2-hour, 22-minute Soviet movie, now at the Bleecker Street Cinema, is the burning of the Belarusian village by German invaders in 1943. A line on the screen tells us that hundreds of villages in the Soviet Republic east of Poland were destroyed, their people annihilated. The history is harrowing, and the presentation is graphic. You feel it through your body as villagers are packed into a barn to be incinerated. Powerful material, powerfully rendered by the director and co-writer Elem Klimov. Yet the scene goes on for so long and with such heavy-handed intrusions that you are left with a feeling of being worked on, which means the effects have stopped working. So it is with the movie as a whole, which won a grand prize at the 1985 Moscow International Film Festival. I'm seeing a clear, I think, Matt, you're taking a lead here. In episodes that shift, sometimes subtly, sometimes startlingly, from down in the mud realism to a dreamlike state, a boy named, they say Floria throughout all of this, but I don't know if that's just the translation, but I'm going to say Floria because I think it's funny how anyways. Floria, a boy named Floria endures the German invasion. His family is slaughtered. A friend, a beautiful young woman who wants only love and babies, is raped. He joins the partisans, is captured and nearly killed. He is our witness to the savagery of the Nazi onslaught against the peoples of Eastern Europe. But it becomes evident early on that young Floria, played by a grimacing Alexei Kravchenko, serves Mr. Klimov mainly as a body through which he can display his directorial powers. The inherent conflict between the director and the character with whom the audience is expected to identify becomes most troubling in a climactic scene that is poundingly effective, taken by itself, but makes no sense at all from Floria's point of view. We are asked to believe so dumb. Okay. We are asked to believe he has a vision of Hitler's career running backward in time from the German invasion to Adolf as babe in arms. You don't have to be unduly literal-minded to realize as the newsreels are driving in reverse that this is not the vision of a peasant lad who has been to the movies much. It is a movie maker's tour de force.
That's cool. That's so cool.
Yeah, no, that's like when that scene plays, I do think this is literally diegetically what this character is seeing inside his head. God, this reminds me of the fucking Tar discourse. I'm just going to get mad if I talk about this too much. But like this idea that anything that happens in a film, we have to fucking we have to nail down, like, did it really happen? Like, I don't give a shit. It's like they're pictures, man. They're moving pictures. We covered this in our 1896 episode.
So After years of running into troubles with his country's film authorities, Mr. Klimov was elected president of the Soviet Filmmakers Union last May, a beneficiary of Mikhail S. Gorbachev's experiment in glasnost, or openness. Possibly the unorthodox style of come and see would bother some cultural commissar, but there is little in its content to offend the authorized Soviet view of World War II. The partisans are camaraderie. The Germans are pulp villains, sadistic, cowardly, fanatic. Quote, inferior races spread the microbe of communism, declares one whose particular mission is to kill Russian infants. Not only does an SS officer drag a woman by her hair on the way to her fate worse than death, but he also pauses to light a cigarette. Mr. Klimov can't leave bad enough alone.
What?
It's so unfair to the SS officers. The ending, though, is a dose of instant inspirationalism. The camera makes its way through the forest to the accompaniment of a choir that soars and soars until we get a glimpse of the heavens. Not the most original moment in the movie, yet, scene for scene, Mr. Klimov proves a master of a sort of unreal realism that seeks to get at events terrible beyond comprehension. He shows what he can do, particularly after Floria has been deafened by bombs, and we seem to be inside the boy's head with the sounds of the outside world overwhelmed by his panting breaths. Everything turns distant and ominous. Ominous enough without Mr. Klimov's intrusions at the expense of his own unquestionable talent. Unreal realism. Come and see. Directed by Elem Klimov. Screenplay, Russian with English subtitles by Mr. Klimov and blah, 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 blah. Running time, 142 minutes. This film has no rating. So, that is the New York Times film review of Come and See. Man. I'd love to hear any sort of reactions y'all have as I tally up our points.
I love unreal realism. Like,
you can tell he really liked that because he said it multiple times.
Yeah. It's none of it's real. It's light on a screen. Like, what are we doing here?
But yeah, but the thing is, I actually like that phrase.
But in a good way.
Like, yeah, no, but that's the thing. Like, he doesn't like. It's like all the things that he's like. Why is this film not like I expect movies to be? It's like he's kind of accidentally noticing sort of what makes this film so good and interesting. But then each time he's just like, why are they doing that? Like, yeah, it's like, oh, it's almost like that the way of, and I don't want to make it too big a thing of like, making a movie never really does anything. At least not in that simplistic of a fashion, right? But the idea that like realism is the answer for how film could affect political change. The idea of still thinking that in 1987, it's one thing when it was like the 60s and like there were real movements happening and you could kind of believe like, oh, if we just got enough people to watch our really boring Marxist documentary, it'll make a difference. But like to be in like, the Reagan 80s.
But it's also interesting. It's also interesting too as a Soviet film, right? Like, I mean, it's, right before the fall, but granted, we've had Tarkovsky, we've had some other kind of more, avant-garde-y experimental stuff that Mosfilm is officially putting out. But like, we all know, the doctrine of socialist realism, what it's supposed to be. You can always tell a story about World War II. That's going to be fine. But this movie's so interesting because it's accepted by Mosfilm and the state precisely because it brings in some of like the sort of Tarkovsky experimental formal techniques, but ultimately it is a realist film. Like it is a film about World War II that is gritty and real. Like this is a realist film. Like
yeah. It's interesting too to compare it to Ivan's Childhood, Tarkovsky's the World War II film that Tarkovsky actually made. And like this is so much more like what a Tarkovskyan take on World War II should be.
Yeah, like later.
Because Ivan's Childhood is like, it's early Tarkovsky. It's a good film. It's interesting, but he doesn't have the clout to fight back with the censors in the same way. You know, there's like, I'm not trying to shit on Ivan's childhood. It's just like, this kind of is like, oh, this is like what you can do.
Yeah.
Like, you can use the Tarkovskian aesthetic for other things, not just for like, you know, like thinking about God or whatever. I have a Tarkovsky tattoo. I'm not, no shade to Tarkovsky, but you know, but yeah, like, it's like, and the idea that, like, you know, realism, the way you do realism isn't just by showing footage of things that happen.
Yes. Yeah.
Like, like we were talking about, like, this film makes you inhabit its protagonist's interiority in a profound way. I think that, like, if we had these kind of like more typical Hollywood scenes of like dialogue and like character development, that would actually, to me, be like divorcing us from that kind of psychological experience, right? It would be making like, oh, this is just a character, instead of kind of like the way he's sort of just almost like kind of like this empty vessel, you know, seems to be really important for how the film makes us kind of like inhabit him. I don't know.
Yeah, and stuff happens around him, right? Which I think is part of the realism. Like, this is what, you know, Andre Bazin would have loved this, right? You know, the realism is done in the shot, and the shot continues, and the shot moves. Meaning isn't created through editing, right? Yeah. Come on.
So I have tallied up our points. Again, I did my best because I think you all expected a little bit much of the New York Times. So I think Matt, length, I think they sort of speak to the length. They didn't like how long it was and how the scenes really seemed to drag on. I think the kind of interiority of the protagonist that they spoke to a bit, so you get a point for that. They didn't mention Tarkovsky explicitly, but I think there's some elements of that, so I gave you a half a point. So that gives you 2.5 points. Now, Devin, issues with the close-up shots. Why no cool fight scenes? They didn't say it explicitly, but I think that there are some pieces around how he was talking about the use of the Fiore character, Floria. So I'm going to give you a half point for that. The one-sidedness, I'm definitely going to give you a point for, because they were sort of unfair to the SS officer. Now, they didn't explicitly say Hitler baby too cute, but again, they didn't like the use of the Hitler baby, so I'm going to give you half a point for that, which brings our tally to Devin, you have 2 points, and Matt, 2.5 points, which means, Matt, you are the winner of this week's Vox Populi. I'm sorry, Devin. Devin, you were within striking distance this week.
I probably shouldn't have thrown out my last one on a joke. But,
so that is the segment that we like to call Vox Populi.
Yeah, so I'm curious, had you guys seen this film before? Was this your first time watching it? It was my second time, but I think like second time in less than a year, I think. I think it was sometime in the last year. You know what? I actually, now that I'm thinking about it, I think I watched it because of the review bombing. Like it had been on my to watch list for a while, but I think that was the thing where I was like, it wasn't like I was doing it as an act of defiance. It was just like, it reminded me that was on my to watch list. I was like, oh, I should get around to that. So I think basically right around when the Russia invaded Ukraine was my first time seeing it. And then, you know, I rewatched it for our episode. What about you, Ethan?
Yeah, I had not seen it before. Unlike you, I don't know that I'm going to want to immediately spring back in and watch it a second time. But to each their own. Yeah, no, hadn't seen it before. You know, most sorts of these films are like the Saving Private Ryans. I kept wondering, when is the heroic army going to come in and save the day? It was just really caught me off guard that they didn't, you know, make use of that obvious thing they should. The U.S. Army wasn't even anywhere in this, so that was something else. So yeah, I had not seen this before, and now I have. I came and saw. So yeah,
You came
Great.
and saw.
Yeah. There you go. What about you, Matt?
Yeah, I actually, I gave the sort of anecdote of, film bros on YouTube and the sort of mythical status of this film. I do admit this was me, 10, 15 years ago or so. But to my credit, it was a lot harder to find back then. This was sort of in the, sort of early moment of stuff kind of really starting to become available, Karagarga, other sort of streaming sites. And I did live in Portland and had access to, like, still to this day, one of the greatest and last remaining video stores. Movie Madness. Gotta cred Movie Madness. But no, I just sort of always wanted to see it. And actually the way I saw it is, at the time in undergrad, I was running a student run 35 millimeter film theater on campus called Fifth Avenue Cinema, which is still in Portland. If you're ever in Portland, definitely go see it. And I always want to see this movie, and so I was like, I'm going to get it this way. I'm going to find a print of it. And so at the time, the U.S. rights were held by Kino Lorber, who still is sort of a really good independent distributor. It's like kind of not so much anymore, but for a while it was like Criterion and Kino were the two kind of like, if you get world cinema stuff, that's where you get it. And so we got a print of Come and See from Kino, and as far as I understood it, it was like one of two prints they had at all.
Wow.
This is a movie from '85, and it's old. And the resto that happened, that this version that we all saw on Criterion Channel or the new Blu-ray, is a resto. I think it happened in Mosfilm in like 2017 or something like this. So the print that I had was like probably from the early 90s. It was in pretty brittle shape. And we weren't a professional reel-to-reel whole incredible movie theater. We had an old platter system from the 80s, and it was a bunch of undergrads and 25-year-old. I was like 25 running this theater at the time, right? And so we screened it, and great, it was up, and we had a first screening. We started it out, and right when it gets to the classic mud scene where they're sort of traumatized after the bombing and they dive into the mud, it's like the most important, the classic scene in the movie, all the stills are from. The film breaks. And by break, I don't mean the classic way in which like a strip of film will break. Oh, shut the projector down, put it back together, splice, right? This film had been spliced together like hundreds of times. Like you opened the can and it was just like splices everywhere you could see. It utterly shattered and like fragmented and then the projector got caught. And so it was just feeding this, shredding the film into a billion pieces in the most important part of the movie. Like, turn it off, turn it off, turn it off, turn it off. We ran in and there was just all over the floor. And it was probably like 5 minutes of the film at this point because it got like stuck and it was utterly shredded. As far as I knew, it was one of the two prints that were there. And I was like, oh my God, we're in so much trouble. I think the school had to eventually settle like with Kino to pay for it. I still have a very taped together, scratched up part of that 35 print in my possession.
Wow.
But yeah, so I ruined one of the last prints of Come and See it before it got restored by Criterion. So that's one of my claim to fame. So
man,
that was the first time I saw it.
If only you could have destroyed a couple more, right? The New York Times would have been much happier. Oh man, that is a wild story. That's crazy. And like I love this, like the collapsing of like the content of the film just kind of bursting into reality.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's really like that ending of the film in a way, like manifesting.
Yeah.
All right. But so something you mentioned earlier, Matt, that you wanted to talk about was how the film deploys space. You know, we had talked a little bit about, like, for example, I mean, the mud scene comes up with this, I think, this strange, like this bog that just sort of like in the middle of this empty space, right? He's walking through it to like nowhere clearly and, nowhere in particular. We talked about like, the village elder and that, the way this kind of like mass of people just kind of opens up into this empty space with him at the center. But I would love to hear, sort of what you were thinking about with this film and its relationship to space and like its and narrative logic.
Yeah, totally. I mean, one thing we have to talk about is the use of Steadicam, right? Which by 85, we've had Steadicam for a while, but Steadicam is really late 70s, 80, actually. The Shining isn't the first movie to use Steadicam, but it's the first to really kind of like popularize it.
Yeah. One Rocky too, right?
Yeah.
Was Rocky the first?
I don't think it was the first. I mean, maybe not. I'm not an expert on film technology. I don't know. But I think The Shining was, it has been regarded as one of the big popularizers of it.
Rocky was the third. Apparently, it is often erroneously cited as the first.
Gotcha.
Bound for Glory is first, and Marathon Man is second.
Okay. But I find this really interesting because especially, we're long past the 20s, but from a school of film and a film tradition that is so founded on dialectical montage and images collapsing and contradiction. This post Tarkovsky Steadicam aesthetic to move through, all he does is he just wanders through the Belarusian, like, undeveloped, like pre-modern, countryside, right? And it's like, this is the place of war. And we never get like a really clear distinction when one space ends and the other begins. I mean, I guess we kind of get it with a village at the end, but I don't know. I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts too. These like, especially like the how ambient it is. Like the cow scene gets this like weird fog. It almost looks like a Scandinavian noir that he's walking through this fog. And I just find this really, really interesting to like, if the point of this movie is to sort of illustrate what happened in Belarus that nobody really talks about and remember this part of the world that during the war it happened and we have to commemorate it because the stories we tell are Stalingrad and Berlin and, Paris and this kind of thing, that it's almost like no kind of logical space could ever fit onto where this stuff happened. It has to be in this weird nether zone.
Yeah. I love you. I love that term nether zone for this, right? Because I'm thinking about this and it's making me think like of a sort of like I was going to use the word peripheral for a second, right? And I don't actually think that's the right word because like, you refer to the periphery, you're kind of, you're implying this sort of like, the Wallerstein, like core periphery, sort of way of mapping space, in the space of capitalism also, but the thing is like being in a peripheral space, you actually have a coherent connection to the core,
right? There's like a parasitic relation or something like that.
It's parasitic, it's not good, right? But there is a coherent relationship, like, oh, this is a peripheral space, whereas like Belarus, as it's conjured in this film, right? I think you're right to like, and like to use the word nether zone, and then I was referring to like this feels like a horror film at times, right? It seems like we're in just some kind of other place. None of this can be made sense of. The only options to make sense of it are then to commit your own murders and atrocities, which is sort of what the film deals with at the end. In a weird way, it's like the spatialization of this film. I almost have to go outside of film to like video games to make sense of it. Like,
yes, I was thinking the exact same thing. Yeah, like
an Elden Ring or like a Fallout 3. These kind of like wastelandy open world games where like vast nothingness within these weird pockets where there's some kind of like there's some kind of set piece happening there. But again, it's not a set piece in like the cinematic sense of like it's just like he's passing through it. I don't know.
Yeah, Gus Van Sant in like 99 or 2000, I forget which. Supposedly, I'm going to butcher the story, but supposedly after making some film in the 90s, he maybe it was Good Will Hunting, I don't know, and he's off just sort of wasting time. He starts to play Tomb Raider, and he gets like really fascinated by the way Tomb Raider like uses space. It's a third person, game, right? And he makes this film called Jerry, Gerry, based off of Alan Clark's Elephant, British film. Well, no, first he makes a remake of Elephant, and then he makes Jerry. And it's all this kind of third person, similar to this sort of Bellatar, where they're all walking in Satan Tango and the wind is happening. But like this is this aesthetic, and it comes out of video games. But you're right. Like, this film does that in 1985, long before we have any sense of a third or first person game space or something.
Yeah,
like
no,
that.
we've got video games, but we've got like side scrollers, right? We
Yeah.
don't have
Atari.
3D, like we certainly don't have open world games, right? But in a weird way, you know, I've had this thought with like Bellatar before too, right? Where there's something about these kind of like these Eastern European spaces that, again, it's not really a periphery relationship. It's one of like abandonment.
Yeah, yeah.
That become these like in film become these like they can't, these spaces that can't conform to typical narrative logic. Because like typical narrative logic, like you need to almost have a mastery of the space to put that kind of narrative logic onto it, you know? Like it's like when you see a film with like really good action choreography, and it's because like the director has like command of the space and is like moving you through it in a particular way. You know, Fiora, he moves through space a lot, right? But always like he's subject to space. Like he happens upon things that happen to him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's because like it's not like a hero's journey, you know. Like it is there's that like aspect of horror, and it's not like the purpose is not, you can't imagine that like what is the conclusion to this even going to be in any way that is at all satisfactory, because it's not, because it was not it's not depicting a setting that had a satisfactory conclusion like that, because it's about you know these 600 some villages that were massacred. And I think the way that you never really feel grounded in where you're at in respect to anything else going on sort of helps you grasp almost like the magnitude of the destruction, that there's almost like this wave of human misery and death that is just sweeping indiscriminately in every direction across space, which is really what was happening at that time. And so I think it's a really good use of having that, like evoking that feeling, and also it's almost like you know the fact that it's kind of going from scene to scene, kind of blending together, gives that sense of anxiety as well, that like, what are we even doing here? Like, what is the point? Where are we going with this? And at any moment you're just expecting calamity, which does often seem to happen. So yeah, I think that was really well done.
Yeah, I like that. And there's a way in which, right, our protagonist like keeps stumbling across things, right? And it's like, well, we've got to go to one place to the next, go to one place to the next, right? And yeah, this world where this stuff happens. But that the final horrific sequence of the burning of the village, it's the same thing in reverse, right? It's like the Nazis do, and the Ukrainian collaborators do just stumble across it, and then they destroy it, and then they leave, right? Yeah, Ethan, you're right. It's just like this wave that sort of just comes over, and that's what this space was like, this zone. It's just like death and misery just comes over you like a wave, and then it goes away, right?
Yeah, and like, you know, maybe this could lead us to thinking about the ending a little bit, right? Because this film is made, you know, this is a film made in the 80s, right? It could have, you know, it's not like it's being made like during the war, right? So it could have given us some kind of like narrative, you know, thrown us the bone of just like, but the Nazis did lose, you know. And it almost seems like we're going to get that when he starts, you know, shooting at the, you know, the picture of Hitler. And that's the like, yeah, fuck you, Hitler. We got you, you know, we did win. And then instead we get this like shocking, you know, this thing that the New York Times film critic didn't know what to do with, right? This reverse montage ending with this picture of the infant Hitler, you know,
and his mother.
Yeah. And it's like, I don't know, what do we do with that, right? It's like the film is like not even giving us the like, you know, it's not giving us like the Tarantino satisfaction at the end of Inglourious Basterds as like, you know, Hitler is shot into mush. It like acts like it's going to give it this, and then it like it does something else.
I might have this slightly wrong, but I think I remember reading that, you know, the original I do know this, the original title for the film was supposed to be Kill Hitler. which is great, which is what happens in that sequence. And I think, in interviews with Klimov and how he said it otherwise is, initially it might sound a little liberal or whatever, but his idea with merging his mother with Hitler is like, this is this thing that's like inside people. Like, you need to kill the Hitler that made, like, there was this like germ festering here, and you need to kill that Hitler, right? Kill that Hitler. And interestingly, yeah, despite the fact that, the sort of state censorship board and like what Mosfilm and the state is doing at the time, like, I know it's later than something like, heroic war narratives after the war, but still there's still some kind of, demand of what you can do. You would think like kill Hitler. Yeah. They were like, no, it cannot be called kill. It cannot be called kill Hitler. You cannot do that. Which I don't know what to do with that. That seems really interesting, but
I'm just gonna have to ask the question, and this is graded. Would you kill baby Hitler? It's a simple, honest question. Would you kill baby Hitler?
Yeah. I don't think it's enough, to be clear. I don't want to fall into a like, oh man, if Hillary had won, we would be at brunch kind of, alternative history, because, the historical conditions that produced Hitler, blah,
there would have been
blah.
another.
I still probably kill him just because, like, if only so nobody asks. Like,
that's true. When you come back, they're like, hey, you're back. What'd you do? Oh, I didn't really kill Hitler. What the fuck, man?
Yeah.
Yeah. Because, I mean, here's the thing. I was going to say, because life sucks now, right? So it's like, how much worse can killing baby Hitler, how much can that flap of the butterfly wings do to me? Are there suddenly going to like be less tenure track jobs if I kill baby Hitler, like maybe, and then like maybe it does get worse, but at least that's interesting. I get to like come back from back in time and be like, oh, I get to learn what killing baby Hitler would have done. And I get to at least like, I get a few more years of catching up on the new Twitter discourse in this alternate reality before I, completely lose my grip on reality. So,
well, sorry, Comrade Klimov, your film didn't do it, because we would still kill baby Hitler. So, swing. So I guess we could just say, come and see Swing and a Miss. Swing and a Miss. Yeah. No, but okay. Sorry, that was a slight. Yeah.
No, but I think there's something here though with right, like, it's so important to me that he's not shooting Hitler at the end, right? He's shooting an image of Hitler.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
And then what he's confronted with, and this is the thing that the New York Times critic had so much trouble with, are very obviously images, right? It's not this attempt to be like, here is like, these are visions that Flora is seeing or whatever. It's like, no, these are clearly, this is newsreel footage. These are famous photographs, famous images that you've seen. And, it makes me think back to this earlier moment in the film when he gets to the rebel camp, and right before everything goes to shit, there's like this relatively like kind of heroic or like optimistic moment where like everybody kind of crowds around and takes a photograph. And like, it feels to me like this film is trying to think about not just like history and not just images, but specifically the way in which history gets made into images. And the way that, like, as a filmmaker, he can only sort of like the material through which he approaches history is the manipulation of images, right? And I feel like the ending for me maybe is like, it's not just like, oh, like, yeah, killing Hitler, it won't solve the problem or whatever. But it as so much of it, it's also like thinking about just like the limits of the image and sort of the whole problem of like this, even like the meta problem of trying to take this horrifying history and make it into images so it can be remembered. But then what you've done is created images. So I don't know, like.
No, I think that's exactly right. And that really great scene, I love that scene towards the beginning when, he first meets up with the resistance fighters, and then, they stage themselves for that photo. And like, none of us work on Soviet Russia in the 40s or whatever, but like, we've all seen that photo, right? There's countless photos of partisans all lined up and in this kind of thing, and the flag in the background, and countless faces. And I'm sure this would have been, for your average Soviet viewer in 1985, like, they have seen that image a million times. But Devin, I think to your point, that's partly the issue. It's like, oh, you've seen this image. Here's what they did. Okay, now here's what happened after they took that photograph. That is not reducible to this nice photograph here. That's actually this horrific thing, and the soundtrack is strange, and we're going to cut through, and you're not going to be able to see anything. And
that's great. Yeah.
And the Germans do it too, right? The Nazis do it at the end when they stage the photo with holding the gun to his head. Yeah.
Yeah, and you think, like, if one of those Nazis, makes it off the war alive, right? He's got that fucking photograph somewhere. Or more likely, that photograph has been purchased by an American politician. It's just like, hey, I just love history. But yeah, there's something about it just sort of like, history is this like this immense force, right? This like mostly negative, mostly death dealing force. And images are just sort of like these like, it's kind of like the tagline of the podcast, but it's just like this fucking detritus that history produces along the way, right? And then like as a filmmaker, you kind of come into that and you're like, well, do I have any capacity to like through my own work of manipulating images, like intercede into history? And I think this film is in some ways about the frustrations of, not actually being able to affect history. And like you're making this in like a rapidly declining Soviet Union as well, right? Like
that's so important. Yeah. But I mean, but even at the end, like the way it's clearly meant as some kind of as close to anything like a Hollywood narrative resolution that we'll get in this entire film as him shooting the photo of baby Hitler and his mother or whatever, is some event that like, okay, clearly this doesn't materially change anything, but this is a symbolic event in which he becomes the person he will then become. And then the final scenes are he rejoins the resistance, right? And sort of goes on after that. But in a way, that is him shooting history, right? It's shooting a photograph. And what happens is history is reversed, right? The towers that crumble return to their vertical form. The smoke goes back into the tube or whatever it is, right? So yeah, there is something about the link. Maybe a better way of saying it, Devin, to your point, is like the linkage of history with images in a particular kind of way. That's kind of interesting. Yeah, I do want to think of like, what do you guys make of that though? The like 85. It's like,
yeah.
Everybody knows. They don't know what's going to happen the way it does and how fast it does, but like everybody knows, right?
Yeah, it's weird. Like I don't know. I don't have a great read on it, like specifically so much as it's just like watching and thinking about this film and thinking about its historical moment makes me feel like this overwhelming sense of like, we're in like a similar kind of historical moment ourselves, where again, it's like, you sound like a nut if you keep like forecasting doom because you can't predict how exactly the like things are going to happen. But you're in this fucking meat grinder, right? Things aren't getting better. Like, there's like that hard limits have been reached that like need to be navigated by some way that's probably going to be horrifying, right? And it's just like, I don't know. It feels like that kind of sense of horror imbues itself into the film as well. Like not just its subject matter, but like that, like, yeah, we fought for this thing. Like, the Soviet Union like won, and then like this is what we got. Like, and the film never actually like comments on that explicitly, but it feels like it's refusal to have any kind of like optimistic note at the end is informed by like its knowledge of the failure of like the Soviet project.
Yeah, but to me that's sort of like, yeah, that is kind of the how the film is portrayed. It isn't like this glorious Soviet victory over the Germans throughout there. I feel like there's this underlying theme, especially you really get it, I think, a little heavy-handed towards the end of that, trying to like remove it from the time and place of sort of talking about this this like insidious nature of like fascist ideology removed, potentially from like the idea of Nazi Germany. Like, again, that guy saying like today or tomorrow, we're going to annihilate you. And so I think it kind of tries to remove itself from that time and place towards the end, and saying that like this is actually something that we should all be thinking about constantly, because this is where these seemingly, compared to where it leads, these much more innocuous situations of, oh, look at those Germans marching down the road and doing this and that, this is where it leads. And so I think that it kind of removes itself from the time in that way to hopefully have that kind of message, but maybe that is situated in sort of what was on his mind and kind of the creation of this film and when it was made.
This might be a little bit of a stretch, but what both of you are talking about really kind of got me thinking about two specific things around this exact question, right? So on the one hand, and obviously I'm not a historian of Russia, I don't know, but like the way we talk about it, right? One of the main narratives you always could make, even before Khrushchev, during Stalin, is you could tell a World War II story. Stalin personally would be the hero, or somebody else, right? Great, we can always tell that story. And as much as, we think about our propaganda films after World War II or whatever, like it really was a different thing in Russia. Like that, to the point being which that's their narrative of the war in Ukraine, right? It's a postmodern, nostalgia moment for that war when pretty much all of them are dead now. But it is interesting. One, okay, so we get this narrative after decades of the triumphalist war story, at a moment at which the people who did fight in World War II were still alive in the Soviet Union, but their society was kind of collapsing in a moment of crisis. And so it does make you kind of wonder, well, that's how they think of maybe that's how they're thinking of history. The only way to do it is through a moment of crisis, and you respond to it in a different way. Which makes it very different than the American version, which when we do that in our culture, it's in the 90s, and we have the whole industry of World War II nostalgia. And why do we have that? We have that nostalgia because all those people are retiring, and they own homes, and they have disposable income, and there's still a market that you want to go buy tickets to Saving Private Ryan, right? And so you make stories that like feel good, they can go and like at the end of their life feel like there's a nice little bow on the end of it. And like that's why all the powerful, wonderful reclamative victory movies came out in America during the 90s. The End of History, Our Moment of Triumph. All of those people are probably living in public housing in the Soviet Union at this point. They stopped the Nazis, but like shit, things are getting bad,
Yeah. And it's like not to over literalize this, but like Ethan, you were joking about like like Operation Paperclip and shit earlier, but there's a legitimate argument to be made that they didn't beat the Nazis and that instead the US imperial project integrated the Nazis, and through that US imperial project, global capitalism ultimately won and destroyed the Soviet project, so there's a real sense in which like they really just sort of like they won a very important and decisive battle in the longue durée war, but capitalism came back pretty hard.
Maybe his kill Hitler thing was right? Actually, you do need to still kill Hitler.
Yeah, and you don't just need to kill baby Hitler, you need to kill fucking, Ronald Reagan.
I think what we really want to drive home is vote. This is the most pivotal election of our lifetimes. So please, whatever election it is that I'm referring to, make sure that you vote.
Well, if this comes out before the Philly mayoral election, do vote for Helen Gim, but also kill Ronald Reagan. You can do both. Sorry to be handing out political endorsements on behalf of the pod, Ethan, but I'm pretty sure you'd agree with me.
Sure.
I don't know if there's anything else anyone wanted to talk about, or shall we pass out the Steve Buscemi's?
Are you just going to like immediately transition us into the fact that we are passing out Steve Buscemi's? It doesn't.
I was gonna explain.
Okay.
once I knew you guys were down, I was going to explain to the listeners. Yeah, so in our first season, as longtime listeners know, we doled out Shia LaBeoufs. Then we had, our brief season 2 flirtation with Walton Goggins. Didn't work as well, perhaps. I mean, I think, it worked a little bit well, except that most of us just kept making Justified references over and over again. I don't even know if we ever really tapped into the Righteous Gemstones enough with that.
I used that once.
Okay.
Yeah.
But anyway, for season 3, our unit of rating is Steve Buscemi.
There's a lot of back and forth. Devin wanted to use a lot of actors whose films I have not seen like any of. And I told him it would help me if we chose somebody whose films I have seen.
So here we are, Steve Buscemi, the Mountain Dew of character actors. I don't know what that means. It's just you can very easily acquired. He's everywhere. All right, so who wants to go first?
Well, I'll kick us off, since this is partially my doing that we're using Steve Buscemi's. So what I'm going to do for this one, I'm going to give the absurdity of giving Come and See a Steve Buscemi's. It's fine. Anyways, please don't IMDb. Please don't review bomb the amount of Steve Buscemi's that I give this film. Let's try to just be, fair here. I'm not going to give a number of Steve Buscemi's. I'm going to give Steve Buscemi from season 5 of Boardwalk Empire. And it's sort of like the whole feeling during that season and the whole feeling during this movie. You're just like, oh, nothing good's going to come of any of this, is it? And you sort of understand its place in history, that it's not going to go well, but also just knowing everybody that's involved, like there's nothing good that is going to come of any of this. I'm not going to feel great no matter what happens at the end of this. Even if the thing happens that needs to happen, I'm not going to end feeling like, oh, it's not triumphal. And so I think for those reasons, it sort of gave me that season 5 of Boardwalk Empire version of Steve Buscemi.
Right. I'm going to give this film 2 Buscemi's, way up. And the specific Buscemi's that I have perching on my thumbs as I raise them towards the heavens are, on the one thumb, Donnie from The Big Lebowski, right? The death of the innocent.
Oh,
right.
Yeah, that's good.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
But then
let's be clear. Let's be clear. I mean, Fliora was out of his element. So
absolutely.
Yeah.
Oh man. And then on the other thumb, I have Mr. Pink from Reservoir Dogs, who I think is the only of the bank robbers to survive, but nonetheless is left literally holding the bag. And because one of the things this film gets across is that the only thing worse than dying in war is surviving.
Nicely done. I hope that you can do that for every episode, Devin.
It doesn't. It's weird how it helps when you've seen movies that the person is in. You're not just making the same Even Stevens joke 20 times.
Hey, was Steve Buscemi in Justified? Okay.
Should have been. He would have been great.
Yeah.
All right, Matt, what about you?
I'm going to give this film 1 Steve Buscemi mask. Ooh. Insofar as after you watch this movie, your face will start to turn, you get the bags under your eyes. You'll feel like Steve. So 1 Steve mask.
Just a slow zoom in on Steve Buscemi's face. Just yeah.
Man, Steve Buscemi, one of the underutilized Halloween costumes. I don't get it. Just go get a Steve Buscemi mask and then wear anything, because he's worn basically every outfit at some point. And there you go.
I would do the Fargo one, mustache, turtleneck. That'd
That'd
be my Buscemi. Yeah.
Yeah, because it's also like October, so it's a little chilly anyway. So I think
Yeah,
it works
yeah.
perfectly. Yeah.
Now that's really good. That's a good note.
Yeah.
You always want to always make sure you do a cold weather Stephen Buscemi. I just called him Stephen Buscemi by accident, and it felt like I was chewing on rocks. Like, it was such a weird feeling. Anyway, Matt, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you guys for
Let
having
the
me.
listeners know, is there anything you want to plug? Anything? I mean, you've got music, you've got podcasts, so.
Yeah, I mean, not really. Just follow me on Twitter. Twitter, Matthias Ellis. I mean, I guess I have a band, but we put out a record last year. We're called A Hope for Home, hopeforhome.bandcamp.com, or is it the other way around? I can never remember.
Yeah, you got it right. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. Those are the two things I got right now. But,
Years of
follow me on Twitter.
Silicon is the album. Fantastic record, let me say.
Thanks, man.
Fantastic record. Everyone should go listen to it. Maybe can we put a little of it on as the outro music?
Of course. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
So we'll throw on some of A Hope for Home's Years of Silicon for the outro music. Then go to Bandcamp and listen to the rest. Well, Matt, thank you again for joining us.
And I think, thank you again, Matt. I just want to leave you with one or two sentences from the Come and See Wikipedia, which is under the home media section of the Wikipedia. In 2001, the film was released on DVD in the United States by Kino Lorber. This release is currently out of print. So I'd like to think that you had a little something to do with the quality of that print and the reason why it is no longer.
I'm going to put that on my CV. So,
all right.
Thank you guys. This was so much fun.
Thank you. No, it was great. And thank you, listeners, for listening to Your Tall But I'm Standing in Front of You. Follow us on Twitter at Your Tall Pod. Follow Ethan at Mathasippi. Follow me at Stale Cooper. Give us a 5-star rating on the podcast app of your choice. And if you ever find yourself in Belarus, well, we can't help you.